All right, I'll get to FinTech now. So my name is Bianca, and I'm one of the, is this really loud? Because I'm kind of loud, yeah, okay. I'm one of the owners, and my interesting title, so Chief Identity Officer. Most of banks confuse me for the Information Security Officer, and that could be kind of tricky. And I'm actually going to stand here and chat with you today about something that I'm super passionate about. And I'm going to call it my secret weapon. And I'm going to share with you and explain to you why I call my job Chief Identity Officer. So today in BioConnect, we're a company, we're about 60 people. We're in Liberty Village. There's a few of us in the room here today, other than the fact that I just embarrassed Jess. And we're in this quest for rightful identity. And when I was running product management, I run product management, marketing, sales, and our partnerships, and was trying to understand, how do you build a technology company that really brings value to banks? What do you do today? How does that work? What is identity? I started in this sort of like idea of trying to figure this out. And I guess I should go to my presentation. So there's about 7.5 billion of us in the world. So when you think about that, that's kind of like a scary thing. I usually don't think about how many people I think there are in the world. And how people came about that is in a lot of approximations, maybe some math, maybe some census, maybe your pieces of ID, maybe the government. That's how we came to this number. And when you look at what has transpired in the world, when you're sitting out there, maybe you're sitting thinking about your next fintech or how you're gonna get your next set of clients. And that's the big number that you wanna hit, right? Like, how do you get mass global adoption? And when you think about what has transpired over the time is those 7.5 billion people actually found a superpower. They found a superpower of being super connected. And today, when you look at the average person, they'll carry about a few devices on them. When you ask Cisco, by 2020, there's gonna be about 6.5 billion devices, 6.5 devices per people. So when you do the math, there's about 50 billion things or channels you and the bank have to figure it out, or an insurance company have to figure it out how to connect to. And how do you do that? How do you look at what is a device, what is a user, what is the identity? How do I connect or communicate or offer value in this ever-growing sort of kind of crazy chaos? I saw this photo. Do I have a photo up there behind me? Yeah, so that photo up there is kind of crazy how many devices that person has. Imagine trying to sell them an insurance product, a life product, or a current account, and what do you buzz? How do you buzz? So when I think about all this chaos, really the reason why I called myself Chief Identity Officer is because I wanted to be able to enable financial services technologies or banks or insurance companies to have an understanding that in the middle of this chaos, there's actually humans that you're building your product for. And those humans you need to communicate with regardless of the channel in one identity. So what most people didn't see coming, and still don't actually, sometimes I'll sit with banks, and I was actually just with RBC today, and they'll say to me, you know, the fintechs, we're partnering, we're worrying about them. A lot of you don't think or wouldn't have thought about 5 years ago how these companies are the disruptors. They're changing the game. And why does that matter? It matters because they're not regulated. It matters because they don't have legacy infrastructure. They can monitor you, and they're way better at having multi-channel understanding of how to get a financial service or any service to you. And they've learned to monetize data on you. When you look at the ad duopoly in the world today, Facebook and Google are making a lot of money on you every day. And this is what happens. Incumbents will tell me, I'm doing this great innovation. And I usually tell them, you're kind of like putting lipstick on a pig. Your innovation is not your cool mobile app, or now I have a bot or a Siri or a look at my swanky website. You're still not changing the paradigm and the problem and reaching a customer. Or if you're a new company and you're not encumbered by technology, you'll say to me, I've picked a winner. I've picked MasterCard Selfie, and now I'm gonna integrate with MasterCard Selfie. So now what have you just done to that 7.5 billion people in the world? You just changed your market demographics. You've now found one channel you're going to integrate with, and you're going to hope to God they stick with that channel. So what are all these sort of things and channels and ideas and connected world missing? It's interesting. I'm going to talk to you about the lack of identity of a human. I often get invited to speak about voice and always voice on command for authentication and identity. And I couldn't help but to look at this story of a 6-year-old, actually, who her mom was using Alexa, and it could be Cortana, it could be Siri. And she actually ordered a sparkly dollhouse. She said, "Mommy, I want to play in a sparkly dollhouse and I want 6 pounds of sugar cookies." And guess what? Amazon delivered a sparkly dollhouse and 6 pounds of sugar cookies. You can imagine how excited that mom was when you think about how technology has evolved to, if you ask someone who built Alexa, they would say to you, "I built it to make channel interaction with the consumer easier. I built it to make life more seamless and be able to communicate." And what did all these people missed? Well, they all missed a fundamental problem, which is, was the 6-year-old the actual human owner of that device? Was that who you wanted to communicate with? And maybe it didn't matter. Maybe it was kind of a funny story, and your 6-year-old order a sparkly house and a bunch of cookies, but what happened if they had ordered your mortgage away, or sold your house, or gave it to someone that shouldn't have received that information? So I'm going to share with you sort of my superpower, which is why I call my role of Chief Identity Officer, and why I think it's so important if you're sitting here thinking about financial services or the future of a platform or whatever that is. If you're a bank, if you're a fintech, if you're an insurtech. To me, you need to think and understand that you have an opportunity to put identity first. And identity changes. It's context-based. Today, I'm standing here in front of you as someone speaking at FintechTO, talking about the fact that I'm excited that the identity of that little human just changed. She's going to have a different last name, maybe. But maybe the person who you wanted to target, if you put too many things between passwords that we can all relate to, between devices, like by getting up on stage, my wearable ring buzzed, my phone buzzed. They're two different things, and someone was trying to communicate with me. So when you're thinking about a strategy of how to build an infrastructure, whether that's a platform, whether that's a service, I urge you to put identity first. I urge you to understand that identity is a concept that it's built on trust. How many likes do I have on Twitter or followers? It's an approximation of how you're going to judge my identity if I wasn't standing right in front of you. So how are you going to use that trust currency in the future? How are you going to be able to monetize and understand that the data of the human you're trying to interact with changes every day? If you talk to me in the pub, I might be a little bit different than I am here, because hopefully I'll have a beer. And that context and trust is going to change with it. So today I share with you the idea and notion that the reason why your Instagram can give you better recommendations than your bank is because they don't understand the identity of the human they're trying to communicate with. You hear about AI. How many times can I say AI? In machine learning, the interesting thing I often talk to people is that the data produced out there is a data that comes from what you think it's me. What if it's not? What if it's my 6-year-old? What decision you're going to make based on that? So that's my sharing for today. And I urge you to rethink your game and understand your identity and what that can mean for your future. Thanks. Juicy tech questions, please.
Questions.
Hello. And I'm really tired, so. I got, like, you're so fast. I was like, oh my God. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I just had a quick
What's your name?
Simon.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So in the introduction, there was mention of blockchain. I was just wondering if you could kind of go into more in depth as to how that works with identity and with BioConnect.
Totally. I'm not going to do a product pitch, but I'll tell you what I think about identity and blockchain. So I think the interesting thing is when you think about a concept of chain, if I simplify it back to a very simple thing, is the whole notion of why would you duplicate journals? Why would you keep and maintain two separate things? Why wouldn't you do something that's immutable, anonymous, and can be changed? in its principle, it's a beautiful changing thing and an infrastructure that could have immense power when the processing computing power matches up to the speed that we live in today. But as anything in life as it relates to technology, people have silo infrastructure today. So you're starting to see that even happening in blockchain. Are you going to pick Ethereum? Are you going to pick digital assets? Are you going to pick Hyperledger? So the interesting thing as it relates to identity when I think about blockchain is how do you move your identity the same way you moved your username and password from Chrome to Safari, from Ethereum to Hyperledger? And why would you start a hash or a node with a username and password, which got us all in this mess of fraud and identity theft to begin with? So I don't know if that relates to your question in terms of what I think of it. So it's really exciting to see things like 2 weeks ago, you had the World Identity Network, backed by Richard Branson, announce that they were going to try to build protocols. So how do you, I am who I am, but I'm ever changing. And I'm should be immutable because I'm still me and should still be accountable. So the protocol of identity as it relates to blockchain is at its infancies. I'm completely obsessed about it. I can talk about cryptocurrency and protocols for too many minutes. But yeah, that's how I see the involvement, and I see biometrics as a solution to not starting something with a username and a password. Any other questions?
Hi. I wonder what you think about identity in the future. Do you think governments will issue ID cards? Do you think that we need to do something else? I mean, it troubles me that I can't put my license on my phone. I can't, put my insurance slip on my phone, et cetera, et cetera.
I think it troubles you and it troubles everyone, right? Like I think customer expectations are changing in terms of you should know who I am because if my Instagram knows me better. So what do I think about identity? Again, another massive topic that I'm sure I could do a keynote for. You're starting to see government, I'll give you some data points. You're starting to see government IDs. The identity sort of little poster child is Estonia government, but also 3 banks, 2 insurance companies, 150,000 people. So if you can't get that sorted, you got a bigger problem. I think you're starting in Canada, actually. It's an interesting place to see the identity network growing. You have Identity North, you have the DIAC, which is a digital identity framework that you're starting to see the government try to do identity so you can have your driver's license on your phone, so you can cut processes and cost and time. I think the interesting concept when you think about identity is who does it belong to? Does it belong to you? Are you going to be organized enough, capable enough, compliant enough to be able to hold? But I think that the biggest thing I always urge people to understand is educate yourself. Like I couldn't even understand what identity was before I started in this job. I had no idea. I was like, well, piece of paper? I don't know. I'm Brazilian, I'm Canadian, and I'm whatever. But it's always to me is the equation about how much of me am I going to give for how much am I getting? And I think that ecosystem, that shared economy model has not taken place. You have people that have no idea what they're doing. All of us just scroll down and accept terms and conditions and give our identity away. So I don't know if that answers your question.
I always wrangle with how we do offline validation, right? Like if you're not, all our devices aren't connected all the time, right? So if I hand my device to someone and say, verify my identity, how do they do it, right? If we're not in this big trust web, so. Well,
that's where you can get some interesting machine learning sort of algorithm to just feeding back how I'm reacting. If this phone was connected, it would give the same signal that my wearable would give. Any other questions?
Last one.
Come on, make it good.
All right, I got a question for you.
Amazing.
What kind of future trends are you seeing that you are actually future-proofing at BioConnect?
We're not as disciplined as he is. We're all about the shiny new toy, which maybe is a problem. I don't know. We're looking obviously regression models, deep learning, and understanding how does it become seamless. So as we look at the identity landscape and sort of where is going to go, I think it's about how do you just take friction right out of the conversation? Like how do you just know it's me? Because I call you enough that you know I'm pissed off and you're going to treat me differently. So we're looking at motion tracking in voice. how things just seamlessly pick up that it's you, like whether that's your ATM or just your bed or whatever. People love the fridge example for some reason, but we're looking at that, and then we're doing a lot of projects in smart cities and connected, just everything, connected IoT, putting in any device on the internet and understanding how a human interacts with the device. But the thing I think is most interesting is how do you monetize it over time? How do you allow people to monetize and take a piece of the pie from a share economy model is where I'm fascinated about. So thanks for having me. And we're around and we're hiring for sure. So come talk to us after.